Did you guys know that Persona 2 exists? Crazy, I know, right? The releases of the Persona 2 duology in the West could have been handled better, to say the least. With the story taking place over 2 games with varying releases in the West, if someone really wanted to enjoy the story, they would have to jump through some hoops to play it. You would have to resort to emulation, importing, or even spending a lot of money to do so. But is there any other way someone might be able to enjoy Persona 2's story? I mean, there's other media that's usually made that retells the events of the game. Persona 3 through 5 have manga adaptations. Heck, even Persona 1 and Persona Q have a manga as well. But what about Persona 2? Well, no. There's nothing. Persona 2 is the only mainline game to not have a manga adaptation. There is a comic anthology that was released, but that contains some side stories with the cast of the game. However, while looking into this, I did learn that while there isn't a true manga adaptation, a side manga does indeed exist for Persona 2. Persona Sumi to Batsu, often translated to either Sin and Punishment or Crime and Punishment, is a lesser-known spin-off manga that takes place after Innocent Sin and is about 6 to 12 months before Eternal Punishment. It follows Seven Sisters high school student Kazumi Kiba as he searches for his childhood friend after he suddenly disappears, and then soon becomes wrapped up in a plot that threatens to destroy the world. While there are references and nods to the Persona 2 games, this manga is its own story and can be enjoyed without any prior knowledge of the games. However, I will say if you have played the games before, it will enhance the reading experience. The story was written by Naotsugu Matsuda and was initially released in 3 volumes from 2000 through 2001. The manga would also see a re-release called The New Edition in 2011 in order to coincide with the PSP remake of Innocent Sin. The new edition would be released as 2 volumes, which added interviews with Matsuda and Atlus's Shoji Meguro, who served as the game director for the Persona 2 remakes. Sin and Punishment was never released in English, with the only official releases being in Japanese and French. Luckily for us, there are some fans that have scanned and translated the whole work into English. Well, almost all of it. From my understanding, the original 3 volumes have been translated, but not the new edition. The only reason I bring this up is because that means the interviews with Matsuda and Meguro are untranslated. I tried to look for any scans of the new edition in order to find the interview, but I honestly couldn't find much. I found a Japanese blog called Smile Studio who had an article on the release of the new edition, and they did have a photo of one of the interviews. However, it appears to have been purposely blurred, so it is unreadable. The only other thing I could find about what the interview could contain is on the Japanese site Pixiv, which is a wiki-type site. On their page of Sin and Punishment, there is mention of the interview at the end of the 2nd volume of the new edition, which says that there were plans for a sequel based on Persona 3. However, there are no sources provided for this information. I personally had purchased the original 3 volumes for this video, mostly because it was cheaper than the new edition and I wasn't aware of the interviews at the time. So if by some small chance you have any information on these interviews, either it be scans or your own copy, please leave a comment. So let's take a deep dive into the plot of Sin and Punishment. I won't cover every tiny detail within the story, and I might move some parts around to make the story easier to tell, but I'll give you a nice summary of the 3 volumes. I will also link the fan translations on mangadex.org in the description if you would like to read the story for yourself, which you should because it's actually pretty enjoyable. This is your spoiler warning for the entire story of Sin and Punishment, as well as a content warning. This story does contain instances of physical abuse as well as self-harm, so if that's something you aren't comfortable with, you might want to sit this one out. But with that, let's start with Volume 1. Our story begins with Philemon, who if you don't know is pretty much God in the series, asking a young man for his name. He screams his name before being jolted awake and running to school. This is Kazumi Kiba, our protagonist. There is some exposition where we learn this takes place in Sumeru City, the same location as Persona 2. Kazumi attends Seven Sisters High School, and his class is prepping for the school's festival. Kazumi is put on the spot and asks for an idea for what the class should do for the festival. He recalls Philemon's face and suggests a masquerade, and the class ends up going with it. Kazumi is asked to go collect masks for the festival. He drags his friend, Rihito Shizumu, along for the trip. Kazumi and Rihito have been friends for 10 years, and right away you can already see the dynamic between the 2 friends. Kazumi is very carefree, extroverted, and gets along with pretty much everyone. Rihito is more reserved and a loner, but thanks to his good looks, he works as a model on the side. The two friends find a mask store and are immediately jump scared by Igor. Igor goes on a spiel about the masks and calls them personas, and he lets the boys take any mask they'd like for free, but in exchange, they must return to Igor once the masks bring out their inner power. Pretty on the nose, huh? The two walk home and discuss how the word persona feels familiar to them when suddenly Rihito vanishes. A week passes and he is still missing. Kazumi hears a rumor that Rihito was spotted at an abandoned factory. He goes and is greeted by a girl with a Jack Frost doll. The girl tells him he will find his true self and then vanishes. Kazumi makes his way into the factory and is attacked by demons. He is hurt and starts to run away when he bumps into Rihito. However, his friend has changed. He tells Kazumi he hates him and orders the demons to attack him. During this, Kazumi awakens to his persona, Yama. Kazumi then wakes up in the factory, having been saved by a man, woman, and the girl with the Jack Frost doll from earlier. Their names are Kaito, Narui, and Rin. The Jack Frost doll is also real as well. We learn that they are all persona users and get to see them fight some demons, using a fusion spell like in the games. Kazumi is unable to believe his friend would do this, so he sets off alone to go find him. While walking around the city, Kazumi can see demons everywhere, and he is constantly being attacked. Narui comes to his aid and brings him to the Velvet Room. After getting his nose assaulted by Kazumi, Igor explains what a persona is. The two leave, and there's a cool bit where we see Narui attempt demon negotiation and we get another cool fight. Narui begins to share info on who the bad guys are when suddenly Rihito appears, wielding a scythe, and stabs Narui with it. This scythe is called the Grim Reaper, and it has the power to steal personas from their users. With Narui's persona in his possession, Rihito leaves, and Narui says the word Nymphia before falling unconscious. We are then blessed with a sweet single panel of Katsuya doing police work, and Kazumi returns to the Velvet Room and begs Igor for help, but he can't do anything. Kaito and Rin arrive, and Rin says she might be able to do something, but the two boys have to leave. So Kaito and Kazumi hop on a motorcycle and make their way to a shrine. On the way, Kazumi notices a billboard his friend modeled for, and the company he did it for was Nymphia. Cut to said company's building, and we see Rihito talking to an unnamed man, who praises him for stealing a persona and reveals that the stolen personas will be used to open something called the Black Book. At the Velvet Room, Rin summons an item called the Red Book and attempts to help Narui. We learn that the Red Book was written by Philemon and contains details on his power and personas. Whoever has the Red Book can manipulate people's consciousness and unconsciousness. Meanwhile, the boys at the shrine collect a stash of guns when they are attacked by a new persona hunter, Lago. A fight ensues until Kaito lights up Lago with his gun, but it is revealed that whoever has the power of the Reaper is immune to all attacks. The battle continues when suddenly the power of the Reaper is interrupted long enough for Lago to get hurt and escape. Thanks to the Red Book, Rin was successful in returning Narui's persona. However, in doing so, Nymphia is aware that they have it. Narui's persona tells her that Nymphia is collecting personas to open the Black Book, so the gang decides they must put a stop to the Hunters, who are also being called Reapers. Her persona tells them to go to Yumasaki Station to look for a key that will assist them. They head to the station and start exploring. They soon notice that there is not a single demon around, and then they are suddenly attacked by a new Reaper. During the fight, Nymphia's leader shows up and introduces himself as Kusaka Yakuno, and he is the brother of Narui. And that's where Volume 1 ends. As for my own thoughts, I am really enjoying it so far. I do think the story moves a bit fast, however the author does a great job of still incorporating personality and backstory into the characters without dragging down the work. The references to the game's mechanics like fusion spells, demon negotiations, and rumors are a nice touch. The next volume starts with a flashback about Narui and her brother. At a young age, Narui can see personas, and her brother is shown to have one. Their home life is not great, however. Their father subjects both of them to constant beatings. But Narui thinks that if she can obtain a persona, then everything will get better. She constantly prays for one, even while being beaten. Unable to handle it anymore, her brother uses his persona to kill their parents, and the flashback ends. A very emotional Narui tries to attack her brother, and the fight resumes. At one point, Narui uses a gun that Kaito dropped and attempts to shoot her brother. However, Kazumi blocks the bullet with his persona. Kazumi uses his anime pro-tag talking skills to convince Narui that this isn't what she wants. She realizes she just wants her kind older brother back. Upon hearing this, her brother vanishes and a key is floating in his place. Surprise! It was Philemon all along, and this was a trial set for Narui. She takes the key, gaining the anti-Reaper weapon, the Flaming Sword, and defeats the Reaper. They learn that there are 4 keys in total, and they will all be tested for them. The second key's location is revealed, and Kaito knows it's for him. He sneaks away so he can do it alone and heads to a church. The gang notices that the Reaper they defeated isn't waking up. They speculate that if a Reaper is defeated, their persona might be harvested instead. They then notice Kaito is missing and take off after him. Kaito meets up with a priest named Kane, who used to be a friend of his. We learn that they were both cops in a special task force assigned to find a potential serial killer. However, on the night of the mission, the whole team except Kaito is killed by a fast-moving demon, and the incident is covered up. Kaito and Kane are standing on the beach when Kaito reveals that he knows Kane was involved in the incident. Kane is then revealed to be another Reaper, and his persona was the one that killed Kaito's team. A fight ensues, and Kaito gains his key, the Windblade, and defeats Kane. The next key's location is unfortunately unknown. Restless, Kazumi goes out to think. He runs into a classmate, Ito, who freaks out since Kazumi has been missing for over a month at this point. During their conversation, Rihito arrives and a fight begins. Kazumi tells his friend to go to Alaya's shrine, since they share a secret there, and the two make their way to the location. At the shrine, Kazumi reveals that this is where he, Rihito, and someone named Mana first met 10 years ago. The first day they met at the shrine, Rihito told them how he is always being bullied and wished he was stronger. Mana suggests that they play the Persona game, and they all become close friends. Every week, the 3 kids would meet at the shrine to hang out, and over time, Rihito starts to come out of his shell. He begins to learn how to climb a large tree that Mana loves, but he would always fall with each attempt. One day, Kazumi and Mana arrive to find Rihito has successfully climbed the tree. Mana starts to climb up to join him, but a branch snaps and she falls to the ground. The boys call for help, but it's too late and Mana passes away. Rihito blames himself and Kazumi tries to comfort him. However, Rihito lashes out at his former friend, saying his kindness has only ever caused him pain and he has hated him ever since he awakened to his persona. The story cuts to an underground lab, where the Reaper Lago discovers that this is the true location of the Black Book, and that Narui's brother plans to activate it while it's incomplete. The Reaper guarding the book, BB, finds and kills Lago. The Black Book is activated, and the sky darkens. Rihito notices, and he leaves. At the same time, Narui's brother is doing an interview on live TV, when he reveals his name is actually Shoichiro Hino, and starts sharing his past. Kaito and Narui are watching in confusion, when Hino brings out clones of his dead parents and Narui. He states that he will use the book to erase his past and help Nymphia purify the world. The real Narui figures out that he's doing this to try to test the Black Book, and she falls and starts to disappear. Back at the shrine, Ito finds Kazumi reflecting on what happened. In an effort to cheer him up, she drags him to the Aoba district. They go shopping and go to arcades, and for a fleeting second, Kazumi feels happy and forgets his problems. At the same time, Rin confronts Hino after his interview, and Jack Frost makes his way to Kazumi to tell him that Rin is in trouble. The battle between the 2 book users begins, but Hino is stronger. He is able to summon 2 personas at once, and with the help of his Reaper bodyguard, they fire a fusion spell at Rin. Through a clearing cloud of smoke, a key is seen, and Kazumi arrives and grabs it and gains the Blade of Earth. Hino decides to leave, and Kazumi figures out that Rin is indeed Mana, and this is where Volume 2 ends. This volume is very backstory heavy. Throughout Volume 1, small hints for each character's backstory are sprinkled in the dialogue, and now we are getting the context for all of it. The whole interaction between Kazumi and Rihito at the shrine is probably my favorite part of the whole story. You can really feel the pain that Rihito is feeling as he finally lets everything out, and the utter shock Kazumi is feeling. I will say I am a little bit confused on the whole TV thing to test the Black Book, so someone smarter than me, please help me out in the comments. Alright, let's get into the 3rd and final volume. The Reapers are ramping up their persona hunt, and Narui is shown to have survived her potential disappearing. Kazumi goes to the Velvet Room and asks Igor if he knows anything about the 4 keys. Igor shares that the keys and books were created by Philemon. The books hold all of the information about the collective unconsciousness, and if someone were to decode it, they would gain infinite power. The keys were made in order to lock away the books. However, they can also unlock them. so only someone who has been given a key can fully unlock the books. With this information, Kazumi leaves. He makes his way to Narui's old family home and finds out her brother had bought it long ago and still maintains it. Jack Frost arrives to help and they enter the house. It is packed full of demons, so they start slaying them, when suddenly a portal opens and sucks Kazumi in. He starts to see flashbacks of Hino's life and the trauma he went through. A scene of Hino about to slit his wrist is shown, and Kazumi reaches out to stop him, with Hino seeing him. Suddenly, Kazumi is spit out of the portal and he lands in the lab with the real Black Book. Kazumi gets into a fight with the Reaper, BB, and he finds out that this Reaper is actually fused with the Black Book. He also learns that all of the hate from the stolen personas is creating a being called Schwartz, and the Black Book is feeding it. Kazumi is able to use his key to lock BB, and we get some of his backstory. Eventually he dies, revealing the 3 other locks to the Black Book. The gang meets up at the Velvet Room, and Kazumi fills them in. Rin now has to find the 4th and final key, but Hino uses the Black Book to summon Schwartz and kidnaps Rin. The 3 and Jack Frost then head to the portal in the house to give chase. Kaito gives everyone a gun and they jump in. Instead of landing in the lab, they arrive in the city. 2 Reapers are waiting for them and tell them that they are now in a parallel world, where only Samaru City exists. Rihito arrives and fighting starts. Rin awakens and Hino tries to force open the Red Book. This buffs the Reapers and changes their forms. Hino opens a portal for his Reapers, but only Rihito, Kazumi, and Jack Frost make it through. Now in the lab, Kazumi is face to face with Hino and Rihito. Hino reveals that when Kazumi reached out to stop him from cutting himself, he did see him, and that everything that has happened up to this point is all thanks to Kazumi's kindness. This enrages Rihito, who just starts beating on Kazumi, who is too shocked to do anything. Jack Frost suddenly appears and launches an ice attack to save Kazumi and makes a dash for Rin. However, Hino is too quick and he kills Jack Frost. Thanks to his sacrifice, Jack Frost was able to freeze the control terminal trapping Rin. She is able to free herself, and with the last of her strength, she traps Rihito and they disappear. Narui and Kaito are still fighting the 2 Reapers. However, thanks to Igor and his bone phone, he fused new personas for them to use, and they defeat the Reapers with the fusion spell. They find a portal that will lead them to Kazumi and they enter it. Meanwhile, Rihito is falling in a void when Rin appears to him. She tells them that she is indeed Mana and is a persona created by the Red Book to unite everyone's hearts. We then get a shot of Kazumi that looks familiar. Hey, wait a minute. Narui and Kaito arrive, and with some shonen protag talk and rounds from the blicky from Kazumi, Rihito's heart is moved, and Rin presents herself as the final key to him. We see Philemon in his domain, watching everything unfold when he is joined by the Reaper Lago, who reveals himself to be Nyarlathotep. Back at the lab, the 3 start fighting Hino, but thanks to the power of the Black Book and Schwartz, he has no problem dealing with them. When it looks like Hino might win, Rihito takes the final key and uses it on one of the locks on the Black Book. He then awakens to a new persona as well. With Rihito and the final key, everyone does one last fusion spell, finally defeating Hino for good. After the battle, Rin appears one more time and gives one of the books to Kazumi and the other to Rihito. Time passes and Kazumi has returned to his normal life. Rihito has disappeared, and he worries that he might be following in Hino's footsteps. However, he remains optimistic. Hino is shown to be in the hospital, being declared brain dead. However, Narui wishes to keep him on life support, with a persona appearing to her that he used to heal her wounds when they were kids. Lastly, Kaito is shown to have been working for the Nanjo group all along, and he has retrieved a part of the system used on the Black Book for them. In return, they pay him and tell him that they have found the girl he was looking for. The story then ends with Kaito explaining that he had a daughter, but he had to leave her. However, he's gonna go see her, with his daughter bearing resemblance to Rin. Although there is no manga adaptation for Persona 2, Persona Sin and Punishment is definitely an interesting addition to the Persona 2 world. While I was a little wary at first for its quality, I ended up really enjoying the story much more than expected. In my opinion, it really captures the vibe of the duology, with many of the characters trying to overcome their sins of the past and having to deal with the punishment that follows. So, what do you guys think? Have you heard or read the story before? Did you enjoy the story or not? Let me know down in the comments. I want to extend a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed, as there are a lot of new faces here. My last video over the lost Persona voice actors kind of blew up out of nowhere, and I could not be more grateful with all of the love and support that it has brought to my channel. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. I do try to make an effort to read all of the comments that you guys leave, so if there's anything you want me to take a deep dive into, Persona related or not, please let me know. This is 2's, and I appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you in the next one.